storage, those sorts of issues. So I think all these factors combined together hinder young people from getting into agriculture.
Thank you, Mr. Yomi Williams. And now to Yejide Ali. Based on what Mrs. Akpabio said and coupled with what Yomi Williams has added, what other challenges do you think is ravaging the agricultural sector and making it unattractive to youth?
Thank you, Vincent. So I would like to build on what they said, which I think is spot on. So can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay. So when it comes to building on lack of information, right? I think the agri sector, what we have right now, there's not a lot of support and a lot of community that would lead to advocacy and interest for the youth. So if you look at some other sectors, they've built that platform, that community whereby like, oh, you're an accountant, just joining the Association of Chartered Accountants in Nigeria gives you some sort of leverage. You have like a lot of tech ecosystem and accelerators that make it easier for people to like just jump in. You have a lot of you want to do product management, you want to do coding, it makes it easier. So I haven't seen the agri sector have like some stronghold community whereby young people can easily just move in, learn a lot about the space. What I've seen so far from what we've done our process, so working with like MSMEs in the agro sector, right? You would see those associations are a lot of people that are much older, right? And a lot of methods that are still being used will be like really unattractive to a lot of young people that may want to come in. So I would say that's why maybe ease of information, that's one of the things that would also prevent ease of information. Another thing I would say is that right now the influencing has a whole lot of power on young people, right? So I would say that we are not really seeing that, oh, there are people doing fantastic work in the agro space, even leveraging on tech, but I don't think they are being portrayed enough the way like people in fintech, people with the healthcare sector are being portrayed, for for other young people to see, oh, like this field makes sense, I can actually do this. Even if I'm passionate about tech is not magic, right? Tech is to make things easier. So like if there's a challenge in the agri sector, why can't I use tech? Why can't I leverage on my tech skills to create this to solve this challenge? So I'll say the power influencing is there, but we are not the agri sector is not leveraging that. I'll say those are like two things I would want to touch on that might like be preventing young people from coming into this space or like progressing in this space.
Thank you, Yejide Ali, for sharing that. It was really insightful because agriculture is also a very interesting sector to play in, but just that these factors you have mentioned are part of the things that hinder people from getting into it. So to Yomi Williams, I would ask, despite these challenges that has been mentioned so far, I'm sure that there are still lucrative opportunities in the agricultural sector. And you all can attest to this because you are people who also refer to as agripreneurs. So I would love for you to shed more light on the various lucrative opportunities that exist in the agricultural space.
I think every aspect of agriculture can be lucrative. It just depends on what you make of it. It's a huge sector with so many different parts. You have vegetable production, you have cash crops, you have floriculture, you have plants, you have processing, distribution. It's such a big area that I think it's an individual choice, where if you decide you want to go into a particular area, it being lucrative is also relative to so many other factors. So, for example, in Nigeria, there's the perception that if you grow this, it's as easy as ABC. You take it to market, you sell at this, and you make XXX millions. But I mean, those of us that are really into farming understand that it's not as simple as that. So you have your production issues, which again, I'll say systemic issues. We hardly produce anything in Nigeria. So you either import your inputs or you're buying them locally. Either way, you're subject to exchange rate volatility. Then if you deal with production, you have to think about transportation, logistics. Then you have to deal with also trying to sell in a very unstructured market. That's if, for example, you're dealing in fruits and vegetables, flowers, plants, things like that. But if you're, for example, growing for an industrial customer or a processing company, it's a bit more straightforward in the sense that you're growing for to specific specifications for a client. But most other areas, they're pretty much open-ended, and you have to build your own ecosystem. This is my own opinion in order to succeed. So in terms of being lucrative, I think it's there's a lot that goes into it. I mean, I'll take my company for example, Gartner Callaway. We started 3-4 years ago, and the truth is, till date, yes, we've made a lot of achievements and feats, but we've spent more time investing as opposed to, I would say, making a lot of money or using the word lucrative, because at every step of the way, we've learned that it's not what we thought it was. And we always have to go back to the drawing table and reassess our business model and further improve on our business model. And one thing we came to realize is to be successful in agriculture in Nigeria, you must control your value chain to a large extent. And even if you don't control it by yourself, you must form strategic alliances or partnerships that are mutually beneficial to parties where you have like an advantage in the market. So that's my take on that.
Thank you so much, Yomi Williams. That was really, really insightful. So Mrs. Edubonga Fabio, Mr. Yomi Williams has mentioned a lot of opportunities available to youths in the agricultural sector. So my question will be, how does the agricultural sector itself contribute to the economic development of the country, Nigeria? And how does the youth, or what role does the youth have to play in this?
Okay, the agriculture sector has actually been leading like the Nigerian economy in terms of productivity for the past straight 2 years plus. I can tell you, and you can check that on the National Bureau of Statistics site, we've been doing little below a quarter of the GDP. Now we've probably crossed that. So we've been doing great in the Nigerian economy. I can't stay and say this is where youth, these are the opportunities for youth, these are not the opportunities for youth. From A to Z of agricultural activity provides opportunities for youth. There's no particular opportunity for the aged, opportunities for young people, no. Everyone has opportunity from A to Z. So the whole place is brimming with opportunity. So what we need to do is get a lot more information, get a lot of knowledge, get a lot of training, and come up with our ideas, our business ideas to play in the sector. It's an amazing sector, I tell you, it's an amazing sector. I do not have an agricultural background, I have to tell you that. I never read agriculture as a discipline. I never read agriculture anywhere. But I took an interest in agriculture when the former president Obasanjo kicked off the cassava revolution, I was interested in cassava. And that was where I started until I discovered that there's a whole lot going on in this sector beyond, what pulled me in there. And I think that is what we need to speak and make this very clear to everyone, not just young people, everyone. You need to know what you're going in there to do. For instance, if I'm going to the oil and gas sector, I remember me saying something about unstructured sector. This is one of the least structured sector in Nigeria. If I'm going to the oil and gas sector, I probably have more information about where I'm going without even talking to anyone. But in agriculture, you need to know where you're going. And that's one of the things young people need to do. Young people need to learn to read. They need to learn to look for information voraciously. In our own time, we didn't have internet. We didn't have, all these platforms that with a click of the finger, you have a whole lot of information just dropping on your laps. So it's so easy now. If you want to do anything at all, if you want to know anything at all, there's a whole lot of options for learning. And young people need to tap into those options. Young people also need to, find people they respect, people in the industry that can also guide them. I know some of them have complained to me about a lot of selfishness. That's human. People really default behavior is selfish, but there are still some good people. They will even tell you more than you could ever even imagine. Blow open, your brains to let you know what's going on, and then help you to get to where you want to be. And they need to look for this kind of people. They need to build the kind of relationships that can give them access to this kind of people, such that they come into the industry, they come into the sector, and they have people who can handhold them until they are well established. So, but if it's opportunities, Vincent, I can tell you for free, it's everywhere in the sector.
Okay, thank you very much, Mrs. Edobong. You have mentioned some really interesting opportunities here and information that even people like myself did not know about. But one question everyone has been asking is, when it comes to harnessing opportunities, especially in the agricultural sector, one thing comes to mind, which is resources. To be able to tap into these opportunities, we need these resources to do so. So are there funding opportunities or other forms of support that youth especially can leverage on to begin to explore these opportunities you have mentioned? So Mrs. Edobong, please.
Okay, thank you, Vincent. I was one of those who used to also think that, oh, there's a business idea, next thing is funding. I cured myself of that mistake a long time ago, probably because of my consulting background. If you don't have a good business idea, if you don't have a viable business idea, there is little that funding can do for you. You'll be storing water in a basket. So these days, I think that a lot of people wanting to go into the industry, they have some paucity of mental depth. They don't want to think too hard. And you can't do business that way. Let me tell you some of the things I found. So a young person comes to me and says, oh, I would want to do this business. And I'm like, okay, fine. Why are you not doing it? And he says, oh, it's because there's no money. If I have money, I would definitely do it. I say, okay, how much money do you think you will need to start it? And they're like, okay, if I say 5 million, I can start. And I'm like, how do you know that 5 million will be sufficient for you to start the business? And that's where the conversation enters voicemail. We need to be able to think better than that. Nobody has money that is just lying for you to come and walk over it. You need to be able to explain. Accountability is key. So we need to grow out of that sphere. But if it is resources are very, very key for any business to grow and thrive. So But you know that knowledge is a resource, information is a resource. So we need to determine which kind of resources we are talking about. For some people, financial resources can be, number one for them. For some people, it could be number 5. What's your resource need has to be determined by an individual. It's not a one size fits all. When I was starting, my first need was not a financial resource. It was an information resource. Then next, a knowledge resource. Then third was a mentoring resource. By the time I got to financial resource was when I was now ready for what I wanted to do. I now knew the kind of financial resources I needed. So it's important for us to understand that we should see it as a business. I think that's what the last 2 policies, the last national policies on agriculture try to emphasize, that agriculture is a business. And just like every business, we need to take it serious. We need to take ourselves serious. So each and every one can determine the kind of resources they require, and then be able to look for where they're available. Some of these resources are already available, but you need to know what you're looking for so that you know where you are going to find it.
Thank you so much, Minister Fabio, for that. That was really, really informational. So to Yomi Williams, I would ask, we have spoken about resources, we have spoken about opportunity. And now I would love to ask, where is the government in all of this? Do you think that we have a place, or we have in place the policies that would enable youth to thrive in agriculture?
I think speaking about government is a very tricky issue. I believe there are a lot of agricultural schemes out there geared towards youth, farmers, and whatnot. But how these schemes are implemented, that's another question. And to be honest, it's not something I believe I can speak much about, but just about my own little experiences with some of the government agencies, which, to be honest, weren't great. And they're marred with a lot of politics, no matter how well you were doing. I mean, when I started farming, I learned myself. And I agree with Mrs. Apaba, I found that it was a passion for me. And the last 7 years, I've literally done some form of research every single day, both practical, theoretical, just learning from all different sources in order to further improve on what one is currently doing. So as an example, when I started our first vertical farm, it was something new, it was something different, hydroponics, recirculatory system, flexible in the sense that it was outdoor, even though it was in a net house. If I was in another country, I would have had a lot of government support, encouragement, and those sorts of things. But Nigeria being what it is, I never had any of those. I mean, the government agencies came, they looked, they loved it. To be fair to some of the agencies, some people within the agencies tried to see how we could work together to replicate, to set up programs for younger people, but nothing ever materialized. In fact, to cut a long story short, to benefit from government, in my opinion, in Nigeria in agriculture, one, you have to be connected. Secondly, you have to operate on a certain scale for them to even want to deal with you. That's my own opinion on that subject.
Thank you very much, Yomi, for being honest about your opinion. Take, for example, some years back, there was a ban on importation of rice by the government just to boost rice production locally and through the refined channel. So all of this happened because the government was trying to support local production. So to Yejide Ali, I would ask, Did all of that ban on rice importation and shutting down of borders to boost local production help youth get involved in agriculture at all?
So personally, I would say that there might be like, I don't think there's any direct correlation between like youth interest in agriculture and the ban of rice. I would say that, okay, yeah, we had like, that boosted introduction of like the Kebi rice, and, we sort of saw that coming into Lagos, and a lot of people embracing the Nigerian rice. That also helped and also encouraged maybe like some young people in the northern side of Nigeria to then go into production of rice. I don't have any statistics to prove that that there was a direct correlation, but I mean, I feel like over the years, just seeing that I know like some people that did their NYC in the north, some young people that did their NYC in the north, and seeing that like, oh, like what had happened with production, with the banning of importation of rice, and then the local production sort of increased their curiosity. I know a lot of them that have built, I know one particular person that has built like a business just from her 7 in the north, and then saying that. So as I mentioned, I don't think that there is any direct correlation, but I believe that interest from young people is increasing day by day, just seeing like what I've seen some people do, and then like young people seeing what other people are doing around them, and how like how interesting the sector is becoming. I wouldn't, obviously, we wouldn't say, okay, everything is settled, or we have like all the infrastructure, or everything is standard based on like what what government provides, or certain infrastructure to boost the activities in sector. But I mean, young people or Nigerians are very creative people. We're very intelligent people, and I've seen people that have tried to sort of find a way to. It has not been easy. I'm sure Mr. Yomi is one of those that's found like a way to make things work. I've also seen like some young people that have sort of created like alternative for deficit infrastructure to enable them push their businesses.
So thank you for that, Yejide. And of recent, still with you, Indonesia placed like a sanction, or more like a law in their country to stop the exportation of oil produce. And now the world is looking down to Nigeria to fill up that deficit. So where do you see this going in terms of boosting, not just among youth, but in Nigeria as a whole, for people to get into agriculture?
So I would say that when this kind of things come up, there might be general interest from people, young people, to say, oh yeah, we can, yeah, this makes sense. Let's look at exporting oil palm produce outside Nigeria, which I don't think as at now a lot of people have even really looked into that sector, or like we've actually maximized the opportunity in the oil palm sector. I don't think so. But what I would say is, in as much as this opportunity come up, I would tie it down to actually knowledge and information on how to do things right. So producing locally is different from like exporting products, right? So young people need to research on like how the right way to do things, how to do it, to ensuring that, okay, whatever you're pushing, they're high quality, high grade, of a certain standard. So it all boils down to doing like proper research about the industry, doing proper research about what it takes to if you want to export oil palm produce, what it takes, who has done it before, tying down to the mentorship you need, and ensuring that like things are done in the right way, you're meeting the right standard, FDA standard. You don't just want to do things and like, there's an opportunity for exporting oil palm, let me just get into it, find something. Obviously you need to like do things right. So I would say that all these things are banning of oil palm produce is not like the only opportunity. There are also several opportunities in the agro sector when it comes to exporting, whether raw produce, whether processed. There's thousands of opportunities. It's just to find the one that you can easily relate to it. If it's grains, if it's spices, and the space you want to play, either being processed or like just exporting the fresh produce, finding the right knowledge and then doing it the right way.
Thank you very much for sharing that, Yejide. To Yomi Williams, Yejide has spoken about opportunities. She has also spoken about opportunities our youth can also harness, not just youth, but everyone who wants to delve into the agricultural space. Now, we in general have spoken about the government, the youth themselves. And one thing still remains unattended to, which is the academic institutions and the role they have to play in inspiring their students to get into agriculture. So to you, Yomi Williams, I'll ask, what can academic institutions do or begin to do to foster interest and involvement of youth in agriculture? Hi, Yomi.
Sorry, can you hear me now?
Yeah, we can hear you now.
Okay. Now, saying that educational institutions can encourage youths to get to further go into agriculture by having more practical education and facilities at the universities. So, for example, I've had the privilege of interacting with a few universities and professors. And what I found was there's just a deep lack of knowledge from the old way of agriculture to the modern way of agriculture. And there's also a lack of facilities at these universities. Although I find that these days there are a lot of universities that are making more efforts to set up programs, raise funding for programs to set up like mini greenhouses, maybe mini hydroponic setups, conventional farming setups, just to give their students a better practical understanding. Because the truth is agriculture is practical as opposed to theoretical. You can read the theory, but the truth is once you get on the field, it's very different, and you have to be dynamic with your thinking, with your reactions, because sometimes when you have issues, it could be caused by different factors. So it's not just textbook where you look into your book and say, oh, this is the problem. No. So that practical education is what will give you the much needed that one needs to do better, basically, and to prosper. So I think just more maybe government funding to a lot of the universities, or maybe grant funding for them to set up practical facilities for students to really learn and get their hands dirty. So that's what I feel.
Okay, thank you very much, Yomi Williams. Grace, you have your hand up. Please unmute yourself and speak, please.
Hello, this is Grace. I'm in Ibadan, Nigeria. Can you hear me, please?
Yes, we can.
I was I'm sorry, but I'm gonna give like a long speech because all the speakers have spoken well. But I we speak about saying that youth are not interested. I'm so grateful that all the speakers agree that that is a fallacy, that's a lie. Youth are interested in agriculture. My research proved that. I did a research on young people and they said they're interested. But like all the speakers said, there is a problem in Nigeria. We don't have any ecosystem. We don't have any system that help young people. Now, I am sorry, but let me make this assumption. All the speakers, your background is you're coming from a different sector that gives you a bit of network, a lot of exposure, and a bit of capital. Yes, I know your second speaker said that she didn't talk about capital. She talked about resources. She talked about mentorship. But your exposure helps you to know what to look for. The average young persons that graduate from the university at the age of 21, 22 doesn't know that there is no hands-on after graduation. And please, Nigeria has about 36 federal universities. And out of these 36, about 28 of them have faculty of agriculture. We have monotechnics of agriculture. We have polytechnics of agriculture. And all these places are filled with young persons. I am a graduate of agriculture, University of Nigeria, Nsukka. Our class was filled up. The set after me, they're talking about 200 persons per set. That is one school in the East. Talk about the universities in the West. So there are young people studying these things and they are passionate. Everybody in my class wanted to do agriculture when we graduated. We know the skills. I know that in Nigeria, curriculum differs based on university, because I met someone who graduated from the University of Benin, and she said they didn't have a practical experience. And I was shocked because in UNA, we were taught how to raise broilers, layers, as in practical. We were given the money, take. We were told to not come back with a loss. So we had to learn to balance our accounts. We had to learn how much feed to buy, to formulate the feed. We were given, here is a parcel of land. The only thing, according to what Mr. Yomi said, is true. They don't have the facilities for modern agriculture. And we don't talk about modern in terms of vertical farming. That is a higher level. And I'm sure the capital you infuse in that, no graduates with parents that are what, gathering 2 naira, 5 naira to push you into the university can help you. So when we talk about youth, the narrative should be a bit broader. And I will encourage all of you, do us graduate of agriculture a favor, go to NYSC camp, look for only graduate of agriculture. I knew what my training was. From second year, I did farming. From animal production, crop production, aquaculture, I did it. I know someone who studied from Futsmina and courses were aquaculture. She graduated and she knows how to start a fishery, but she didn't have the money. Someone now lent her money and she's doing her own fishery there. And this is just like 2 years after NYSC. So like we've all said, if we want to make youth go into agriculture, our stories and our context needs to differ. Your context comes from, I'm sorry to use the word privilege. You all came from somewhere. You didn't come from the basis. And you all know how much you've invested in ensuring that your startup is viable or is even breaking even. But the majority of young people are from family that are just struggling. My parents struggled to send me to school. I knew how I graduated. And I knew when I graduated, even my uncles were all artisans. They barely eat. And that is the majority, we are the majority. The 5-10% that says they have this network, I'm sorry, but you guys are not the norm. You guys are the exception. And until the exception becomes the norm, it is unfair to give the narrative about youth and agriculture, or we're not tapping into the opportunities. I know a young man who has passion, but there's so much of passion can carry you. He's still doing it, and I'm talking to him. He called me to consult on how to do his business, and I give doing his own, and he's doing the farm on the side. And for 2 years we're doing farming, he hasn't break even, but he's still going into it because the passion is there. For how many can have, that is a lot of an agricultural background, but how much support, how much mentorship. How many people are willing to go out of their way to help a young person who just graduated? You go to NYC Cat, I need only those that read agriculture. If we do that 2 years, 3 years, only looking for those who read agriculture, and stop saying that somebody told me, maybe agri, you don't open ground, throw seed for ground, it don't grow. That is the disrespect we get. And as you said, the governments are not helping. There are programs for youth, and every time they can, you read engineering, you're a young person, enter. But in other professions, if you don't have some certain knowledge or criteria, you won't welcome. But in agriculture, it's all comers, you're welcome. So as much as I agree with everything you have said, and I'm glad you all agree that youth are interested, but the system in Nigeria do not encourage the average young person whose parents struggle to send him to school and is thinking of how will I pay my parents back, how will I eat, how will I survive, to go into agriculture. Because if you go into, like you said, if you're not producing for the industries, you're producing for open markets, your first harvest is going to be a loss. And so there is a whole lot that needs to be looked into. The government is not helping. I can say that authoritatively because I work with a research institute. The government is not helping. I know young people are interested, but even though you say look for the information, who will mentor you? Where are the hubs that will hold you for the first 1, 2, 3 of your business, or 2, 3 years of your business until you balance? All those things are not there. As long as they are not there, you won't get young people in agriculture, because like the lady said, they need to eat. We need to survive. And without that, I am sorry, we are just going round and round in circles. We have, my research, when I did my research, Nigerian graduates, about 5,000 people from agriculture alone. 5,000 young people graduate yearly minimum from faculties of university, polytechnics. Where are these 5,000 young people? What happens to them after graduation? There is nobody there. So the narrative needs to change. And the second we start looking at, yes, some universities, their curriculum are whack. I'm sorry to say, use that word, but there are also other universities. University of Ibadan has a good structure. FUNAB has a good practical structure. UNM, where I graduated, has a good practical structure. There are many that have good practical structure, but without the facilities, we had a tractor, but there was no fuel to fuel the tractor. So we had to use hoe and cutlass. So there are many things that are there, but I'm glad we all agree on one thing. Youths are interested, but the system that is not there, the support that is not there, is what is actually killing all the graduates of agriculture. We are many, but there's nobody to pick us up. So that's my contribution.
Thank you very much, Grace, for sharing. That's really, really emotional. And I agree with you. Every one of us who have gone into the agricultural space in one way or the other have always leveraged a support system. But this support system is in no way accessible to everyone. And that is just the truth you've spoken about. So Kadwana, Deborah, you have your hands up. You want to say something too? Okay, if Deborah doesn't have anything to say for now, to Mrs. Edo Papabio. Hello, Yomi, you were saying something?
No, I wanted to add to what Grace was saying.
Okay.
So, I mean, I agree with a lot of things she said, but just to further even bust her bubble, and I would admit what she's saying. I would be lying if I said that I didn't come from some kind of privilege. But regardless of the privilege that I came for, I know how hard I have worked. And even with the privilege, there's still no support. That's how crazy it is. So I can actually relate to what she's saying in the sense that if I can't even get support with my privilege and leverage, how would the youth that don't have that privilege even get any support? It's a very interesting theory, and those are some of the things I was trying to actually work out with some of the government bodies so that we could empower a lot of these youths, because agriculture is all about funding. I know how difficult it's been, the sacrifices I've had to make to get to the point that I've gotten to. And just for everyone to understand, I'm not just into vertical farming. We do conventional farming. It's just that we do smart farming, where we aim to increase our yield as much as we possibly can per square meter to get the best out of whatever it is that we're growing. So I just wanted to add that to what Grace said.
Thank you, Yomi, for adding that. Like, the conversation is really heating up, and I'm happy because that is the aim of this, to actually share ideas and see what's the best way moving forward to get people involved in agriculture. So we have spoken a lot about role models. Grace just talked about it. And Mrs. Edobong also hinted it when she said, look for somebody who you like, somebody who's more like a mentor in this sector, and reach out to the person, let the person hold you through the first 3, 4, 5 years as you move into the agricultural sector. So to you, Mrs. Edobonga Fabio, we have several mentors or role models when it comes to the tech space, when it comes to entertainment. But this is not something we really or ordinarily find in the agricultural space. So do you think that not having enough role models in the agricultural space is part of the factors why youths are not really, maybe not finding it easy breaking into the industry?
Okay, yeah, you're right. So it's like comparing oranges and apples and calling it fruits. The entertainment industry is, brimming very well with a lot of corporate support, and it's growing. And we have lots of local content, and we are really, upping our game and taking our place. That's not what is happening in our sector. A sector that has been so badly neglected for so long. It's I usually call it the phase other half, of agricultural development is what we're doing now. So we neglected it. We were doing well, then we came down. Now we're trying to come up again. So it's something that has to grow. So you can't compare agriculture with another sector that has already, gotten past its teething stage. Now, for me, I would say technology is making its way very well in agriculture, pioneered by young people, of course, because people like us are still trying to work our way through understanding technology. So young people seem to grab it so fast, and they are bringing it to the table, which is a good thing. But it's something that needs to grow and take its place. And one of the things that is making it very attractive in agriculture, it's because it's not being bedeviled by the bureaucracy and poor infrastructure, even when it is there, to make it not to happen. So it's happening in spite of the fact that we have all those challenges, and it's making work easier, for players. So it's something that a lot of people are looking forward to. I'm looking forward to a lot of it, and I'm looking to embrace it very well, because it's the way to go right now. And it's providing the kind of solutions we've been praying for. And you can find technology in operations. You can find technology in research. You can find technology in innovations. It's bringing about solutions in all of those areas, and it's a good thing. I wanted to also talk about the role of government that you asked Yemisi and Yomi, and to say that I actually did write a paper many years ago on all the nation's agricultural policies and programs and schemes from independence, and it's a lot. Question should be why it never worked, So when you have a country that is policy makers, policy administrators do not believe in what they are churning out, then you know that we have a big problem. And that's where the problem actually starts. They don't believe in the policies they are churning out. They do not believe in anything. They never believed that agriculture could do this well, I tell you. And those are the kind of people we have in public service. They do not believe in the growth of this sector. So you can't expect them to give what they do not have. And so government, for me, is not helping many people. It's not a matter of you being a young person, you're not helping. They're not even helping the old ones. So everyone is trying to just push themselves, forth in what they believe in. I mean, they believe in their passion, they believe in their interest area. And in spite of no support, they simply need to make their way through. It's hard, it's very, very hard. It's excruciatingly frustrating, I can tell you that. And while I understand the emotions, displayed by Grace, which is a lot of what I get to feel from young people, I would advise that we do not generalize things. I don't come from a privileged background. My parents struggled to send me to school. They struggled. We are 7 in my family. So you can imagine, and both my parents were salary earners. It was a huge struggle. I would never sit down here and say that I was privileged. So you can't blanket all the speakers and say you're coming from a privileged background. I don't come from a privileged background. I struggled my way through everything. I never got any freebies from government. So it's something that we need to understand, that your background should not determine your ability to grab success. I don't believe in that. And I'm a testimony to that. I have struggled my way through everything. When I got into this business for 10 years, I never made anything looking like a profit. My balance sheet was always red for 10 solid years. How did I survive it? It's only God that can understand what I'm telling you. So let's not blanket, give one generalization that people are talking from the base of privilege. I'm not from a privileged background, but I determined to succeed. The moment I determined to do anything, Vincent, I make sure that I do it in spite of anything. But let me tell you what our parents gave to us that they couldn't give us in terms of financial support. They opened us up to relationships that they built and the goodwill that they built. That is what gave me that step up that I required. I never came from a family where I was calling my parents witches and my uncles witches and wizards. There were a lot of relationships that I was open to, built by my parents, not with money, but with goodwill. We have to take our stand and determine how we want to grow in life. If you want to build relationships, it can work for you. Where money cannot reach, your relationship can take you there. And we need to understand this principle. Everything is not about money. Many years, I had to do many things pro bono. And why did I do that? Because I wanted the experience. If I want to learn about vertical agriculture, I will probably work with somebody like Yomi for free, because I will learn what he's doing. When I want to now do it, I will do it from the position of good knowledge and experience. Many young people don't think like that. Maybe that is the privilege I got. So I don't want to really go into too many things. We need to determine how we want to skin our rabbits. There are so many ways to do it. You can roast the skin. You can, use the blade and scrape the hair. There are so many ways to skin it. You just determine how you want to go about it. But many young people have the same access to some of the access I got. They just don't know how to use it. There was a time I was involved in a program and we're looking for interns that were young. And there was a stipend to pay. At the time, I called these organizers. And how did I get involved? I called the organizers because I saw it. And I said, I know that I'm above the age, but you don't need to give me the stipend. I just want to learn. And they said, okay. I applied. Hello, can you hear me?
We can hear you now, Mrs.
I can hear you.
Okay. So later, they said, no, as long as you're on the program, you will be paid the stipend. Was okay, but I had already prepared my mind that I didn't want to be paid. And there were a lot of young people in the same program with me. But let me tell you what I found. Many of them were just there because of the stipend. They weren't there to learn. How are you going to grow? Like I said, we need to determine how we want to skin our rabbits. My first loan came from my uncle. And I walked up to my uncle and I asked him for that money. And you know what my uncle told me? He said, because when I went to repay that money, exactly the time, and I can tell you, so many things I had to do away with to be able to put that money together to repay. And I took it back to my uncle and he told me, consider that is my seed into your business. I tell you, my uncle didn't have that money initially. He had to borrow it. He used his salary to pay. But in his mind, he was looking to help his niece. It was later I knew that he borrowed that money himself and he was using his salary from the civil service to pay it back. Vincent, we need to choose how we want to skin our rabbits. The academic institutions are not helping. We have a very archaic curriculum in agriculture. I must tell you that. And many times I have conversations with academicians. You can see that their level of thinking is not business-like at all. I have had to have a brainstorming session with academicians where I say, come, what is it that you are looking for to put your agriculture faculty together and get grants? All of them are pointing to government, the government that doesn't want to help anybody. So we are not ready for this conversation. We are not ready for this conversation. And as long as we continue to see it's us and them, we will not get way. Us and them will not take us anywhere. We need to come together and ensure that this sector works. Government is not helping Nollywood. Government is not helping our music stars. Government is just not there. So my father used to say that your level of disappointment is as high as the level of your expectation. If you don't have any expectation, then you are probably not going to be disappointed. I'm not a fan of government. I've learned to work my way through whatever it is I can do as long as it's not illegal. But government is certainly not the way we are going to go to get this right. That's my just contribution.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Akpabio. Thank you so much. Yejide, you have your hands up.
Yes, thank you so much, Mrs. Akpabio. I think you took the words out of my mouth, right? I would just like to say two things. One, as an individual, right? I think it's not just the agri sector and it's not just agriculture, it's literally everywhere when it comes to academic, right? So I studied human nutrition and dietetics. And when I came out of school, I did not like, in terms of like what I'm expected to like practicalize, there was nothing. I just knew like theory, like it was just the classes of food, carbohydrates, and some other things. But in terms of like what a dietitian is meant to do clinically, I had no idea, right? I had to like sit down. I'm like, okay, so what did they even teach me in school? And then begin to look at like research, look at other parts of the world, what dietitians do, sort of like relearn, right? So I want to use like a Yoruba proverb, but I would like translate it to English. So it says that your parents, they gave birth to you well, but you need to also then rebirth yourself, like reborn yourself. So I feel like when it comes to Nigeria education, I'm sorry to say, we are still at, I don't want to give us F, but we're like D, really, really theoretical. We're not, our curriculum is still backwards. Like curriculums in other countries have evolved, but we're still backwards. So I feel like as a graduate, what you are taught, you need to also teach yourself to research. I did a lot of research, looked at all the opportunities, what I wanted to do. And even when I wanted to like pivot to another space, I then looked at, okay, what do these people do? What do they do? I looked at opportunities, what was available, not just in Nigeria. You'd be surprised that, you know, we are now in like the remote world, you'd be surprised that, oh, you could be in Nigeria and be like creating impact in different places just for knowledge sake. You could intern with like different organizations in different organizations in other parts of the world. There are a lot of opportunities like that, even if you say, okay, the opportunities in Nigeria are not enough. So it's just that dedication from you. It's not easy for anybody. It's really not easy. It's just you have to be determined. It's not really everybody that is going to, it's not everybody, I'm sorry to say, but it's not everybody that wants to really be exceptional. A lot of people settle for average, and I would say that it's you that needs to determine, okay, do I want to like sit down and wait for these opportunities, or like, oh, the vacancies, and then take them, or I need to like take that one step forward, that even if like things are not so rosy right now, I have a vision, I know where I'm going to, I need to like harness whatever is available. That's on the personal level. And in terms of like the agricultural space, or I would say that, as Mr. Akpabio mentioned, government is not helping anybody. Which sector would you say government is active, right? The only reason government will be interested in a sector is when they start seeing that, oh, this sector is actually really doing well. If you look at the entertainment sector, the only reason why government has shown a bit of interest is because they've put themselves together. They are making waves, they are doing stuff, right? So government has said, oh, these people actually portray Nigeria to the world. Oh yeah, let's check ourselves. And if you look at fintech also, you would see that they you had Flutterwave, Paystack, you have these people coming up. You then see this other startups coming up in the fintech space, and then you can now see government interest, even if it's not all positive, but you could see that, okay, this solution had to come out from certain individuals. There are people that had to be angel investors. There are people that invested in Flutterwave at a very early stage. There are people that invested in Paystack at a very, very early stage before they even came to life, and we know them now. So they had like patient and angel investors. There are a lot of things that went into that sector before government began to show interest. And I think in the agri space, we also need to look at that. So the reason I personally don't believe that the mentors might actually not be as much as other sectors, but I think it's more of like having platforms, having communities to then aggregate these mentors and make it easier for people to access. And I think that's what other spaces have been able to do. So if you have like communities, if you have like hubs, I know like Hanley said, I had some conversations around creating like ecosystems for agro-processors, right? So if you had hubs whereby like people can easily access mentorship, it makes it easier. If you have these certain hubs, it's easier for like angel investors, it's easier for like patient investors. I don't know our network here, but it's you need this certain these people to then hold forth this sector while like things are coming up. You need these hubs whereby farmers, whether mechanized, modern farmers can get access to some sort of support, some sort of funding at the initial stage, knowledge at the initial stage, then they begin to grow. So we need to sort of begin to hold ourselves and build these different communities. I know there are associations, but believe me, we've spoken to a lot of these associations, and a lot of them are as good as not functioning. They are just meeting. So we need to create this system by ourselves, look at what other sectors have done, and then just do it for the agri space, because like government is not going to do anything. It's just us, right?
Okay. Thank you, Ejide. Thank you. It's really, really, really nice to hear that from you. As we wrap up this session, Yejide, I would just want you to go ahead and give us like a take-home point from all you've said so far. What is that one message you want to pass across to everyone listening today to say, okay, this is the action point you want them to take out of here?
So my take-home point is, I think it's what was at the beginning of my message. It's one, as an individual, if you have like an interest, you need to make that extra effort to get into the space and get what you want out of the space. Two is the agri sector needs to begin to build this ecosystem, this community, right? And not just forward-thinking, innovative communities where people can access, makes it easier for people coming into the sector. This space is hard enough, right? And just imagine having a community of support. It makes it easier for you as a person. But like if you're alone, starting a business or like a startup, it makes it extremely challenging just thinking that, oh, I'm alone. So I think that we need to begin to create that community and yeah, and keep pushing. So that's out there.
Thank you very much. Yomi Williams, would you want to add to this?
Sorry, what's exactly?
Your take-home message to the listeners for today.
I think for me, the main thing is, so we're talking about youths getting into agriculture, all the challenges, all the problems. But one thing I've observed is a lot of youths are also very lazy. I personally work with a lot of youths. All our staffs are graduates. Some I take out of NYC. Some even, I've trained a lot of interns that when they were in university, they came, they interned with us. Some we've employed. And the general thing I've come to, my observation is a lot of them, they don't test their minds, they don't research, they don't try and improve themselves. They just expect that they want to make money. But the truth is that making money is not easy, no matter what sector you're in, whether it's agriculture, mining, oil and gas, or any other sector. You must pay your dues, you must learn, you must understand. And you must also be willing to task yourself and also see how you can add value to your organization, yourself, or whatever situation you find yourself. So my own observation is it's all well and good that also we say there's no funding, there's no this. Okay, when you provide the funding, what are you going to do with the funding? If you lack the necessary education or understanding to actually even use the funding, it will amount to zero. So I think this is a very critical and important aspect that a lot of young people also need to understand, that they need to push themselves and challenge themselves to learn more. It's really all about education, and from education, you can build a good idea and you can work towards achieving your goals.
Thank you, Yomi Williams. Thank you so much. Mrs. Edobonga Fabio, would you please run up this session with a take-home message to our listeners?
Yes, I just want to encourage young people to take their space. This is your time, you know. Look to changing the entire scenario that you have met. They say when life throws you lemons, lemon is not a very sweet citrus. It's not like orange. That's why they are using it. They could have said lime. You know, when life throws you lemons, there is something you can do with it. You don't just what is this? Make lemonade. It becomes a very, very sweet drink, very, very delicious beverage you're making out of something that wasn't looking like a good serve. So I think that is where that's the kind of quote young people should wear now, that there is opportunity in every adversity. Maybe it's a good thing, you know, that you're not getting help, so that you will really look for where help really is, because I tell you, there is help. There are resources. It's just that what we are looking for as resources is not what is available. But if you look at probably the other side of it, you will see that, you know, those resources are there. So I want to encourage young people. There's no need for us to get dejected and frustrated and all of that. Just wear the coat of optimism, wear the coat of your energy. Young people have a lot of energy. We were young also. We had a lot of energy. We could think. There's a reason why, you know, the brain of a young people is different, it's vibrant, you know. So let's make it so. And then let's stop the complaining. It tanks your energy. I don't like hanging around people that the only thing they say after good morning is to tell you how things are tough. Things are tough for everyone. I didn't need you to remind me of that. But we need to move on. We need to find you know, where the right resources are, and they are there. I tell you. So I want to encourage young people. You know, let's go up. Let's go beyond, you know, all these things that we are saying with the eye. There's a lot more, like my grandmother would say. There's a lot more after 6 than 7. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mrs. Edobong, for sharing. As we come to the end of this session, I really just want to share this last slide with everyone. Thank you all for listening. Thank you everyone for joining. It's really been informational, even for I myself. I have a lot of right now, and I believe, as every speaker has said, this is the opportunity you need to get access into. This is a more like inspiring you to say, okay, everyone needs to take up that stand and say, I want to get it done, not waiting for an external body to come push you to want to get it done. So far, we all have taken one thing or the other out of this session. And I would love all of us to just go on Twitter and share our take homes from this, including the hashtags from the Catalyst Change Week, and also tagging the Catalyst 2030 network on all of these social media handles. Basically, this session was organized to inspire youth to get into agriculture. With what we have listened and with what we heard from our speakers, we believe there's so much to do. And we know even though the government has a role to play in this, we do not have to wait for the government to get us on track. Let us get ourselves on track, and the government will help us along the way. And that is the take-home message I have taken from here, and I would love to share with everyone. So thank you very much all for joining our speakers. I say a very big thank you to the Catalyst 2030 Network. Well, thank you so much for organizing this Catalyzing Change Week and for giving us the opportunity to share with a lot of people the changes we want to pioneer across communities in Nigeria. So thank you so much, everyone, and have a great evening. Thank you.